Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my experience of trying out Dave Ramsey's budgeting method for an entire 30 days. Many of you have probably heard of Dave Ramsey and their popular budgeting system. I was really intrigued by it, so I decided to give it a try and see if it could help improve my own finances. Over the next 30 minutes, I'll walk you through the process, share the ups and downs, and let you know whether I think this budgeting method is worth trying for yourself. Sounds good? Alright, let's get started. Background on Dave Ramsey and their budgeting method. For those of you who aren't familiar, Dave Ramsey is a well-known personal finance influencer with millions of followers across their YouTube channel, Instagram, and other social media platforms. They've built a large audience by sharing budgeting tips, money-saving strategies, and general personal finance advice. The core of Dave Ramsey's budgeting method is the 50-30-20 rule. The idea is to allocate your after-tax income into three main buckets: 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings and debt repayment. Needs include things like rent, groceries, utilities, and other essential expenses. Wants are discretionary spending like dining out, entertainment, and shopping. And the 20% is meant to go towards savings goals as well as paying down any outstanding debts. Dave Ramsey argues that this balanced approach helps people avoid overspending in any one area while still allowing room for some fun and flexibility in their budget. They claim it's a simple yet effective way to get your finances in order. My financial situation before trying the method. Before I dive into my 30-day experience, let me give you a quick overview of my own financial situation. I'm a 28-year-old living in a medium-sized city. I have a steady full-time job that pays me about $65,000 per year after taxes. I currently rent a one-bedroom apartment and my monthly rent is $1,200. In terms of my existing money habits, I would say I'm somewhere in the middle. I try to be somewhat mindful of my spending, but I definitely have room for improvement. I don't really have a formal budget in place, so a lot of my spending ends up being reactionary rather than planned out. I do have some savings set aside, but it's not as much as I'd like. And I also have about $12,000 in outstanding student loan debt that I'm slowly chipping away at. So with that context, I was curious to see how Dave Ramsey's budgeting method could potentially help improve my financial situation. Implementing the 50-30-20 rule. The first step was to calculate my after-tax monthly income and then divide it up according to the 50-30-20 guidelines. Based on my $65,000 annual salary, my estimated monthly take-home pay is around $4,300. That means 50% or $2,150 would go towards my needs. 30% or $1,290 would go towards my wants. 20% or $860 would go towards savings and debt repayment. To put this into practice, I started by listing out all of my monthly fixed expenses like rent, utilities, car payment, etc. That came out to around $1,800. Then I estimated my variable expenses for things like groceries, gas, and miscellaneous spending, which I pegged at around $350. So in total, my needs category added up to about $2,150 per month. For the wants bucket, I went through my past spending and tried to get a sense of how much I typically spend on discretionary items. This included things like dining out, streaming services, shopping trips, Ubers, and other entertainment. I ended up estimating this to be around $1,290 per month. Finally, the savings and debt portion. I decided to allocate $500 per month towards my student loan payments and the remaining $360 would go into a dedicated savings account. At first, this felt like a big change from my previous budgeting, or lack thereof, approach. But I was determined to stick to the 50-30-20 ratios as closely as possible over the next 30 days. Ups and downs of the 30-day challenge. Alright, so I officially kicked off my 30-day Dave Ramsey budgeting challenge at the start of the month. For the first week or two, it was actually pretty smooth sailing. Categorizing my expenses into the 3 buckets was straightforward, and I felt good about sticking to the ratios. The needs category was easy enough since those were mostly fixed costs. And the wants section gave me a little more flexibility to enjoy some of the things I love, like going out to eat with friends or treating myself to a new outfit, without feeling too guilty. However, the real challenge came when it was time to allocate that 20% towards savings and debt repayment. I'll admit, it was tough for me to consciously move that much money out of my main checking account each month. That $860 felt like it could be put to better use elsewhere. There were a couple times where I was tempted to dip into that 20% for something I wanted, like tickets to a concert or a fun vacation I was planning. But I stayed strong and resisted the urge, reminding myself of the long-term benefits of sticking to the plan. By the end of the first 2 weeks, I did start to notice a positive impact on my overall financial picture. My savings account balance was steadily growing, and I was making bigger dents in my student loan balance each month. That felt really rewarding. But then, about 3 weeks into the challenge, things took an unexpected turn. I had a pretty significant car repair come up that ended up costing me $800. That blew a huge hole in my needs category for the month. I ended up having to dip into my wants money to cover the difference, which was frustrating. I also ran into a few other minor expenses that month, like a wedding gift and a few medical co-pays, that nibble away at my budgets. It made sticking to the 50-30-20 ratios really difficult at times. Ultimately, by the end of the 30 days, I came pretty close to the target allocations, but I wasn't perfect. My final numbers ended up being: needs, 55%. Wants, 27%. Savings, debt, 18%. Not terrible, but definitely not the ideal 50-30-20 split I was aiming for. Final thoughts and recommendations. Overall, I have to say that trying Dave Ramsey's budgeting method was a valuable learning experience for me. While I didn't quite achieve the perfect 50-30-20 breakdown, I did see some positive impacts on my financial health by the end of the 30 days. My savings grew, my debt payments accelerated, and I became more mindful of my discretionary spending. The system also gave me a helpful framework for categorizing my expenses and thinking more holistically about where my money was going each month. That said, I think it's important to have some flexibility built into any budgeting approach. Life is unpredictable, and unexpected expenses can easily derail even the most carefully crafted budget. So while I still recommend giving the 50-30-20 rule a try, don't beat yourself up if you can't stick to it 100% of the time. The key is progress, not perfection. And overall, I'm glad I took the Dave Ramsey challenge. It's been a valuable experience that has helped improve my financial habits. Conclusion. Well, there you have it, my 30-day experience with Dave Ramsey's budgeting method. I hope this was helpful and insightful for you. Let me know if you have any other questions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.